On June 14, 2018, a single passenger slumped in a second-class seat aboard Indonesia's Argo Wallis Express. His name was Yasser Kadim, an alleged Hamas courier. Minutes later, he would unknowingly trigger one of Mossad's most audacious covert operations. Outside the train, lush Javan landscapes blurred under tropical rain. Inside, hidden microphones monitored whispered conversations. No passenger noticed the silent men in plain clothes 2 carriages behind him. They were not tourists. They were operatives from the world's most feared intelligence service. Yasser believed he was safe. Indonesia had no formal ties with Israel. He was carrying encrypted data, memorized coordinates, and verbal instructions. His job was to move unseen between sympathetic networks. He never imagined the train itself was watched. Tel Aviv had picked up a whisper months earlier. A Hamas courier traveling under multiple identities, transporting intelligence from Malaysia to Lebanon. Air travel was too risky, so he rode trains, trusting anonymity. Mossad analysts called him the ghost on rails. The decision to intercept him inside a moving train was unprecedented. No extraction teams, no air support, only undercover field officers embedded among civilians. Their mission required absolute silence, precision timing, and deniable methods that left no bullet, no body, and no witnesses. At 14:12, the conductor announced the next station. Yasser glanced at his phone. The man across the aisle lifted a newspaper but never read it. A camera lens glinted between the pages. Somewhere, an encrypted signal confirmed. Target, positive. Phase 2 begins. Suddenly, carriage lights flickered. A temporary power loss. Passengers murmured. In those 8 seconds of darkness, Mossad moved. No gunfire, no struggle. When the lights stabilized, Yasser remained seated live, breathing but irreversibly compromised. He never realized his fate was sealed, not by force, but by information extraction so silent it became legend. By the time the train reached Surabaya, his secrets no longer belonged to him. They belonged to Mossad. If you are fascinated by real covert operations, hidden missions, and the unseen world of espionage, then this story is only the beginning. Tell us where you are watching from, and what you think really happened aboard that train in Indonesia. Did Mossad overreach, or was this a necessary strike in a silent war? Like this video, leave a comment with your city, and make sure you subscribe. Every week, we uncover another hidden chapter of modern intelligence warfare stories, rarely admitted, never confirmed, yet impossible to forget. But who was Yasser Kadim? To most intelligence services, he barely existed. No photographs, no confirmed birthplace, and only scattered whispers inside encrypted Hamas channels. He was not a fighter. He was something far more valuable, a trusted, invisible messenger. For years, Hamas avoided digital communication for its most sensitive operations. Men like Yasser carried information in memory, traveling through neutral countries where surveillance was weaker. If caught, nothing physical could be seized. No laptop, no phone, only a name and a code. So why did Mossad hunt him inside a moving train in Indonesia, thousands of kilometers from Gaza or Tel Aviv? Because what he carried was not data, it was the next stage of a covert supply chain linking Southeast Asia to the Middle East. If that chain stayed intact, new weapons could move silently across borders. If it broke, an entire clandestine pipeline collapsed. The operation was not about one man. It was about stopping the flow of intelligence, funding, and technology reaching Hamas frontline commanders. What was at stake was not a single attack, but the strategic reach of an entire organization. Mossad believed Yasser's mind held encryption keys, meeting schedules, and names of offshore facilitators. Extracting that knowledge could change the regional balance. But did they capture him? Did they interrogate him in secret? Or did they ensure he never reached his destination? Officially, nothing happened on that train. Unofficially, whispers say it was one of Mossad's most precise psychological operations. To understand that night, we must understand the world that created it. The world where intelligence services wage silent wars across continents, without headlines or borders. The story of Yasser Kadim makes no sense without understanding the shifting battlefield of global intelligence after 2010. Wars were no longer only fought with missiles and armies. They were fought through shadow couriers, offshore finance, and silent technology transfers. After repeated conflicts in Gaza, Hamas leadership understood that direct weapons shipments were easily intercepted. Instead, they began building a global logistical network. Money moved through charities, parts through shell companies, intelligence through couriers, who memorized everything and carried nothing. Israel's intelligence doctrine also evolved. Instead of targeting visible fighters, it pursued invisible facilitators. Engineers, financiers, and messengers became priority targets. A dead courier could stop more rockets than a destroyed weapons depot. Intelligence became the new battlefield. Southeast Asia emerged as an unexpected front. Nations like Malaysia and Indonesia offered safe havens where Middle Eastern actors could move quietly. No diplomatic relations with Israel meant lower risk of extradition or surveillance cooperation. Hamas exploited this blind spot masterfully. By 2015, several Israeli analysts warned that the next major supply route would not run through Egypt or Sudan. It would run through an arc connecting Kuala Lumpur, Jakarta, and Beirut. Tracing it required understanding commercial travel, not military convoys. Israel could not openly operate inside Indonesia. Mossad relied on cover identities, allied intelligence services, and private contractors. Every move had to produce plausible deniability. A public arrest would ignite diplomatic backlash across the Muslim world. Hamas, for its part, believed memory couriers were unbreakable. No device meant nothing to hack. No documents meant nothing to seize. If the courier reached his final destination, everything remained intact. If he disappeared, doubt corrupted entire operational pipelines. At the same time, regional geopolitics shifted. Gulf states quietly cooperated with Israel against Iran. Egypt tightened its borders. Hamas needed new supply lines. Southeast Asia offered distance, banking flexibility, and sympathetic networks beyond Western surveillance grids. Meanwhile, a silent technological race accelerated. Drones, encryption protocols, and guidance chips became more decisive than rockets. Whoever controlled the flow of components controlled the battlefield. Hamas could buy parts abroad. Mossad could track the people arranging the purchases. That invisible war stretched across continents. One day it unfolded inside a hotel in Kuala Lumpur, another inside a cafe in Istanbul. Sometimes it happened inside a moving train rolling past rice fields and quiet villages. Geography mattered less than timing. Indonesia's vast rail system became a perfect corridor. No facial recognition at stations, minimal police oversight, constant movement. Couriers could vanish into crowds. Meetings happened inside trains, not in buildings. The landscape itself became part of the operational design. Within Israeli intelligence circles, one code name kept appearing: the line of silence. It referred to any courier chain built on memory and human trust. Break one link, and the rest collapsed. Yasser Qadim was identified as a critical human link, but Mossad needed proof. No agency could act internationally without certainty, so they watched. Flight manifests, hotel check-ins, passport changes. When they finally mapped Yasser's movement pattern, it revealed an alarming truth. He was a professional courier, not an accidental traveler. This realization triggered a strategic decision. If Yasser reached his Lebanese destination, the chain would solidify forever. If he was intercepted discreetly, the entire network would unravel. The stakes were no longer tactical. They were structural, affecting future wars. Thus, the world's quietest conflict converged on a single train crossing Java. Two ideologies, thousands of kilometers apart, collided inside a moving carriage. No national borders, no headlines, only a silent fight for control of information and destiny. Inside Tel Aviv's intelligence headquarters, analysts gathered around a digital map, tracing Yasser's past movements. Every journey, every hotel, every phone ping formed a pattern. He always traveled alone, used cash, and never stayed longer than 90 minutes anywhere. The decision to intercept him was not made lightly. Mossad's senior director of counter-Hamas operations argued that this courier was more dangerous than a rocket technician. A technician built weapons, a courier built the systems that enabled them. But how do you stop a man inside a foreign country, on a civilian train, without alerting police, governments, or journalists? The answer required creativity, legality bending, and the kind of planning only elite intelligence services attempted. A small operational cell was formed. No uniforms, no weapons that could be traced. Only legend identities, forged documents, and a mission statement. Infiltrate the train, extract information, and leave without anyone realizing an operation occurred. The team chosen included a psychological interrogator, an electronic warfare specialist, and 2 field officers fluent in Indonesian, Arabic, and English. No one carried visible equipment. Everything fit inside ordinary luggage people bring for business travel. They tracked Yasser's booked seat through a compromised ticket vendor. He always requested window seats. He traveled economy to avoid attention. Their plan centered on proximity, not arrest, not kidnapping. A controlled disruption creating just enough confusion. Months of prep focused on creating an 8-second blackout. Indonesian rail systems occasionally experienced signal fluctuations. Mossad decided to exploit this vulnerability, triggering a timed power drop using a localized radio frequency disruption disguised as ordinary interference. The team rehearsed inside a mocked-up train carriage in a warehouse near Tel Aviv. Lighting systems were rigged to cut for 8 seconds. Each operative practiced blind movement, memorized seat layouts, and synchronized actions to heartbeat-level timing. No one was allowed to speak during rehearsals. Every move relied on touch, signal vibration, and internal countdowns. They trained until muscle memory replaced conscious thought. 8 seconds became a lifetime of deliberate action. The method chosen to extract data was unconventional. They would not seize devices. They would plant them. A micro-implant disguised as a USB dust cap would be inserted inside Yasser's phone port, enabling remote data siphoning after he disembarked. Why not capture him outright? Because a disappearance triggered investigations. A frightened courier created panic. A seemingly unharmed courier who unknowingly leaked everything destroyed trust inside Hamas, forcing them to question every remaining operative. To maintain cover, operatives boarded separately at earlier stations, to posed as tourists. One appeared as a businessman with a laptop bag. One carried a camera, disguised as a travel vlogger. None acknowledged one another. A fake maintenance team was deployed near the track hours earlier. Their real purpose was installing a relay device under a bridge the train would pass beneath. That relay would trigger the exact 8-second blackout. Meanwhile, parallel teams monitored Yasser's online footprint. Even memory couriers occasionally checked innocent messages. Mossad needed confirmation he remained on schedule. A harmless weather app he used contained a hidden tracking subroutine written months earlier. Time zones mattered. The blackout needed to occur while satellite assets were aligned above Java. During those seconds, the micro-implant would execute its first transmission burst, disguised as routine GSM noise across the rail corridor. The operation required full deniability. No weapons drawn. No physical harm. The legal risk was minimal if discovered. Intelligence officers could claim coincidence. Everything depended on remaining invisible, not victorious in confrontation. One more challenge emerged. Indonesian authorities had unknowingly assigned undercover police to the same train, investigating smuggling. Mossad operatives could not alter this. They simply adjusted cover legends and ensured no move resembled criminal behavior. By the final briefing, every risk was catalogued, every route mapped, every fallback option planned. If any step failed, they would abort. Better to lose the courier than expose an illegal foreign intelligence operation inside Indonesia. The operation was scheduled for June 14th. The train would depart Jakarta at dawn. Mossad teams checked in under different names, carrying ordinary travel bags. No radios, only silent haptic devices disguised as health wristbands. The director ended the mission briefing with a single sentence: "We do not need his body. We need his trust to remain intact until the moment it is too late." Everyone understood. They were not hunting a man, they were hunting belief. The Argo Willies departed Jakarta at 6:05. Morning haze drifted above the tracks. Passengers settled into assigned seats, unaware that 4 of them were Mossad operatives, watching a single man who believed he was traveling unnoticed across Indonesia. Yasser Kadim sat in carriage 6, seat 14A. He placed his small bag overhead, removed a notebook, and stared through the window. He appeared calm, no visible stress. His heartbeat remained steady. He had done this journey before. 2 carriages behind him, the first operative lifted a newspaper. A tiny camera lens peeked through a printed advertisement. A silent blink confirmed visual match. Yasser was exactly where they predicted he would be. At 8:19, the psychological interrogator walked past Yasser, pretending to find a seat. He dropped a pen, glanced apologetically, and kept moving. His miniature wrist recorder captured Yasser's voice patterns and breathing rhythm for stress baseline analysis. Meanwhile, the electronic specialist sat 3 rows away. In his backpack rested a device disguised as a portable charger. It monitored GSM traffic inside the carriage. He waited for a transmission attempt. Yasser never pulled out a phone. At 10:03, the train reached speed, crossing central Java. Mossad's timing window approached. A relay device hidden beneath a bridge activated. It prepared to interrupt signal flow into the power control system exactly 3 minutes later. Inside Tel Aviv, a monitoring officer watched live telemetry through layered proxies. If the blackout failed, they would abort and vanish. If it worked, 8 seconds would reshape an intelligence war. They silently counted down. At 10:06, carriage lights flickered once. A few passengers reacted, mildly annoyed. Yasser looked up but did not panic. His training told him power fluctuations were common in Indonesia. He remained unaware of the precise choreography unfolding. Then darkness covered the train. Not full blackness, but heavy dimming. Fans slowed. Screens reset. For passengers, it felt like a harmless electrical glitch. For Mossad, it was the moment everything converged. The interrogator moved first. He stepped behind Yasser and lightly bumped his shoulder, apologizing in Indonesian. His hand brushed Yasser's phone, inserting a dust cap implant, no larger than a fingernail. It snapped into place in half a second. Simultaneously, the laptop operative opened his bag, pretending to stabilize it. In reality, he activated a wireless handshake pulse. The implants synchronized, transferred memory access payload, and queued packets for satellite burst. Once power returned, 3 meters away, the camera operative rose, as if stretching. He tapped a concealed haptic button twice, signaling completion. No words spoken. In total darkness, only vibration confirmed steps. Every move required practiced precision. Then light returned. Fans resumed. Someone laughed about unreliable trains. The blackout had lasted exactly 8 seconds. No alarm sounded. No passenger complained. Yasser continued reading handwritten notes, unaware his phone now served another master. But Mossad was not done. They required confirmation that the implant functioned. 2 minutes later, an invisible packet burst traveled upward through cellular tower reflection, riding ambient noise. It reached a listening post disguised inside an unrelated maritime satellite feed. The decoded signal contained partial contact lists, timestamp logs, and encryption handshakes. It was enough. They had pierced the courier without touching him, without interrogation, without violence. Everything else could be harvested once he left the train. Yet the mission contained one final test. They needed Yasser to continue believing he was safe. If he changed behavior, Hamas would suspect compromise. So the interrogator returned 15 minutes later, making casual conversation in Arabic. He pretended to be a Lebanese trader. Yasser responded politely but guarded. Their dialogue lasted 2 minutes. Hidden microphones measured tone, anxiety markers, and hesitation. Results showed normal interaction. Yasser suspected nothing. Mossad confirmed psychological stability. The train approached Surabaya by afternoon. Mossad operatives prepared to disembark at different stations, staggered by several stops. No two left together. Their legends remained intact. They dissolved back into civilian anonymity. At 15:42, Yasser retrieved his bag and stepped off. He walked toward a taxi stand. He did not know his phone transmitted another silent burst when towers reconnected. That signal contained the address of his next meeting. 3 hours later, inside a villa far away, Mossad analysts decrypted the full memory map. Names, dates, and travel patterns appeared on screen. The courier system was exposed. Entire routes could now be interdicted quietly, without arrests. By midnight, an encrypted internal message circulated within Israeli intelligence. Operation completed. No detection. Asset unaware. Despite no confrontation, the mission was considered one of Mossad's cleanest extractions of intelligence from a live hostile courier. Some claim a second team followed Yasser after arrival. Others believe he lived months without realizing he was compromised. Reports differ. What is certain is that the train operation succeeded without leaving a single physical trace. Mossad officers later described the moment not as an attack, but a surgical insertion into the mind of an enemy network. A victory achieved without blood, yet devastating in strategic effect. Silent warfare at its most precise. When the world looked at that train, it saw ordinary travelers crossing Indonesia. But inside those 8 seconds of darkness, a war shifted course. A man lost his secrets without losing his life. That was the true operation outcome. When Yasser reached his guest house, he believed the journey was successful. He sent no distress signals. He contacted no handler. His behavior remained unchanged. That was the first and most important confirmation for Mossad. The Courier felt completely safe. Inside Tel Aviv's signals unit, analysts watched live bursts of exfiltrated data. They saw message chains, offshore account markers, and rendezvous schedules. No one celebrated loudly. Silent operations demanded silent victories. The team simply noted, network breach confirmed. Within 48 hours, several offshore facilitators cancelled planned meetings without explanation. They believed Hamas internal security detected compromise. In reality, Mossad quietly disrupted bank transfers and shipping arrangements, forcing confusion without revealing the source of the leak. Hamas leadership noticed patterns collapsing. Unrelated operatives reported sudden delays, frozen funds, missing intermediaries. Someone suspected a mole. Interrogations began internally. Nobody suspected a train in Indonesia, or an 8-second blackout that changed everything. Inside Gaza, rumors spread that a courier had been followed. Some commanders blamed Qatari intelligence, others blamed Egyptian authorities. None considered Mossad extracting data without arresting or assassinating the messenger. Such an operation seemed impossible. Indonesian authorities noticed nothing at first. Weeks later, a regional cyber unit flagged strange GSM patterns near a rail line, but filed it as interference. No passenger complaints, no missing persons, no violence meant no investigation. Foreign intelligence analysts in rival agencies later whispered that something happened on a train. No documents proved it. A single leaked internal note referred to a non-kinetic extraction event inside civilian transport infrastructure. Even that line was redacted. Mossad never issued statements. They never claimed credit. Unlike assassinations or physical seizures, this operation had no public deterrence value. Its power came from secrecy, forcing Hamas to doubt every messenger afterward. Privately, some Israeli officials argued the operation was more effective than targeted killings. Removing one courier changed little. Making every courier afraid to travel changed everything. Fear became a permanent operational cost. Hamas never officially acknowledged the breach. They quietly replaced several memory couriers. Some disappeared. Some retired. All were told the same warning. Someone knows where you walk. Trust eroded faster than funds. Meanwhile, analysts studying encrypted Palestinian communication detected rising paranoia. Code phrases changed frequently. Meeting times shortened. Data moved slower. Every adjustment meant more internal friction, less operational efficiency, and more opportunities for surveillance. To the outside world, nothing happened. No headlines, no explosions, no dramatic footage. But inside intelligence communities, the train incident became whispered proof that modern espionage no longer required bullets-only timing, psychology, and perfect silence. By the time Yasser realized something had gone wrong, it was already finished. Mossad did not need to question him. They had already stolen the answers. But as more details emerged inside intelligence circles, the story fractured. Some claimed Mossad never boarded the train at all. They argued the courier's phone had been compromised weeks earlier, and the blackout narrative was deliberate disinformation to hide digital interception. Another version suggested a physical extraction occurred. According to this theory, Yasser was quietly drugged during the blackout, interrogated inside a nearby safehouse, then returned to the train before power restored. No evidence supports this, yet the rumor persists. A third narrative, circulated among European analysts, argued the entire story was invented by Mossad to frighten Hamas. By leaking whispers of a perfect operation, they could induce paranoia without ever conducting the mission itself. Hamas supporters spread a counterclaim. The Courier never failed. They insisted no data leaked, and that Israeli intelligence exaggerated the event to intimidate resistance groups. They provided no proof, only ideological certainty and online declarations of victory. Indonesian media occasionally referenced a mysterious intelligence incident on a train, based on unverified leaks. No official investigation followed. Without bodies, explosions, or arrests, authorities dismissed the story as foreign speculation or cinematic exaggeration. Some retired operatives claimed the blackout was real but accidental. They argued Mossad exploited an unexpected power failure, improvising an opportunity rather than planning it. Others insist the shutdown was engineered with military precision months in advance. Academic papers later debated legality. Did the operation violate Indonesian sovereignty? International law offers no clarity. Espionage is widely practiced but almost never prosecuted. No court addressed the matter, leaving only moral ambiguity and geopolitical silence. Another unresolved question concerns punishment. If Yasser truly lost strategic secrets, why was he not eliminated? Some believe Mossad needed him alive to monitor Hamas reactions. Others think assassination risked diplomatic consequences. Deeper ethical arguments emerged regarding memory couriers. Is stealing a man's recollections different from torturing him? If no physical harm occurs, is psychological exploitation permissible in war? Intelligence doctrine offers no public answer. One leaked internal review suggested Mossad considered the operation a prototype for future non-contact extractions. The idea, access enemy networks without killing, kidnapping, or exposure. Critics argue this evolution makes covert war even harder to detect or regulate. Pro-Hamas commentators accused Israel of manufacturing another myth of intelligence superiority. Pro-Israel analysts countered that Hamas denied every major breach until consequences became undeniable. The truth remained buried under propaganda layers. Years later, investigative writers attempted to reconstruct events. None gained direct confirmation. Everyone interviewed repeated variations of the same line. Something happened on that train, but no one will ever officially admit what. Even the name Yasser Qadim is debated. Some argue it is a composite identity masking multiple couriers. Others insist he was real, alive, and later replaced within Hamas quietly, without public accusation or internal trial. The only consensus is this: after June 2018, Hamas drastically reduced use of Southeast Asian routes. Whether through fear, exposure, or coincidence, a silent system collapsed. But whether Mossad struck flawlessly or merely frightened them remains unproven. Perhaps that uncertainty is the strategy. When truth becomes unknowable, every courier travels afraid. Every movement becomes a risk. In intelligence warfare, doubt itself becomes a weapon. Militarily, the operation delivered no explosions, but its consequences rippled through the logistical backbone of Hamas operations. Every shipment, every courier, every overseas fundraiser became suspect. Uncertainty spread faster than any missile strike could, weakening networks without firing a single bullet. Inside Israel's intelligence community, analysts viewed the train operation as a shift in doctrine. Instead of sabotaging shipments, they sabotaged trust. When conspirators doubt each other, systems collapse from within. That was the true strategic success, invisible long-term paralysis. Hamas faced at least three critical setbacks. First, encrypted contacts were exposed. Second, overseas procurement slowed. Third, internal counterintelligence diverted resources towards self-investigation rather than planning. In warfare, time lost is often more damaging than assets destroyed. Internationally, the incident complicated Hamas' foreign operations. Southeast Asian governments became more cautious. Passport scrutiny increased. Travel through Indonesia, once considered safe, became unpredictable. The value of neutral territory declined, forcing Hamas to reroute through more monitored regions. For Israel, the operation proved geography no longer constrained intelligence power. Success inside a non-hostile distant nation showed Mossad could operate anywhere, anytime, without diplomatic cover. This created a psychological deterrent, extending well beyond the Middle East. Allies quietly took note. Gulf intelligence officers reportedly requested briefings on non-contact courier compromise methods, not because they opposed Hamas, but because such techniques applied equally to rival factions, insurgent groups, or even political dissidents. Enemies took note as well. Iran began reassessing use of memory couriers. Hezbollah analysts questioned whether similar extraction had already occurred. The fear of silent interception forced everyone to fortify secrecy, straining their operational speed and flexibility. Strategically, the operation demonstrated a new intelligence metaphor. Instead of chess, where pieces are captured visibly, this resembled Jenga. Remove one unseen block and an entire tower becomes unstable. The courier was that block, quietly removed. However, this success carried long-term risks for Israel. Each flawless operation raises expectations and pressure. Future failures would appear more dramatic. Rivals would study this mission carefully, searching for weaknesses in Mossad tradecraft. Diplomatically, Israel avoided backlash only because no evidence surfaced. If proof ever emerges, Indonesia could face public outrage for allowing foreign operatives on its soil. Covert success often contains hidden political fragility. Operationally, Hamas shifted to more compartmentalized systems, fewer couriers, shorter memorization windows, more disposable routes. This slowed their efficiency, but also made future penetrations more complex, increasing Mossad's workload and resource requirements. The event also reshaped internal debate within Israeli intelligence. Some favored continued non-lethal extraction operations. Others argued that leaving couriers alive risked delayed detection, allowing adversaries to reroute before long-term advantages were secured. Strategic analysts compared the operation to removing a railroad switch before a collision. Nothing spectacular happens at first, but the entire direction of movement changes. That was the unseen brilliance, changing outcomes without visible confrontation. Most intelligence failures become public. Most intelligence successes disappear. This operation became a rare third type, a whispered success with public consequences and no official ownership. Strategically, it altered behavior on all sides without a declared winner. In the end, the operation's impact was not measured in arrests or explosions, but in hesitation. Every future courier now wonders if silence truly protects them. That hesitation is a permanent strategic victory. Today, the train intercept is whispered inside intelligence circles as a turning point in modern espionage, not because of violence or spectacle, but because it proved information could be stolen from a living courier without stopping his journey. Some intelligence schools cite it as the first fully deniable extraction of human-born data during civilian transit. Others argue similar operations happened earlier, but none became widely discussed. The ambiguity only strengthens its mythic status. Within Hamas narratives, the event is never mentioned directly, yet internal training reportedly shifted afterward. Couriers now rotate quickly, carry fragmented memory, and avoid predictable travel patterns. Silence became more important than secrecy. For Mossad, the operation remains controversial even internally. Some officers believe non-lethal sabotage is the future. Others argue intelligence must still deliver physical consequences to maintain deterrence. Philosophical tension continues between surgical precision and kinetic dominance. Critics claim operations like this normalize unrestricted global espionage. If foreign operatives can act inside peaceful nations unnoticed, sovereignty becomes meaningless. Supporters counter that preventing weapons flow justifies covert intrusion. No official documentation exists confirming Mossad involvement. This absence protects governments but fuels conspiracy theorists. Some insist the story is psychological warfare narrative, designed to frighten couriers without any actual operation occurring. Training simulations in multiple countries now reference 8-second windows as planning benchmarks. Whether or not the blackout was engineered, its symbolic power reshaped operational thinking across agencies studying non-contact intelligence disruption. Fiction writers adapted versions of the incident into novels. Screenplays circulated. Stories portrayed masked agents moving in darkness, stealing secrets from minds rather than laptops. Popular imagination amplified what official reports never confirmed. Ethically, the case raises new questions. If a courier remains unharmed but exploited, is it still an act of warfare? Does invisible extraction create moral gray zones compared to open confrontation? Some former officers call it a bloodless assassination, not killing the man, but killing the mission embedded inside him. Others claim it represents progress, defeating enemies without corpses or collateral damage. Scholars debate whether such operations strengthen or weaken long-term stability. Invisible warfare reduces public outrage, but also removes diplomatic cost, making covert conflict easier to escalate unchecked. Its greatest legacy may be psychological. In every airport line, every train seat, every seemingly ordinary traveler, an intelligence courier now wonders whether technology has already defeated memory. The operation proved this new reality. In modern covert war, survival does not guarantee safety. A man may walk away alive, yet everything inside him belongs to someone else. So what truly changed on that train? No gunshots, no chase, no dramatic arrest, Yet one silent moment of planned darkness rewired an entire intelligence war. A courier survived, but his role, trust, and purpose quietly died that day. The operation proved a difficult truth. Modern conflict no longer requires visible victories. Sometimes, winning means convincing the enemy that secrecy itself is impossible. Fear replaced force. Memory became vulnerability. Silence became weaponized in unprecedented ways. Was it a tactical victory? Absolutely. But was it a strategic warning as well? If intelligence services can extract minds without confrontation, what remains of privacy, sovereignty, or even moral warfare boundaries? What happened inside those 8 seconds still shapes operational doctrine today. It forced militants to evolve, forced intelligence agencies to innovate, and forced observers to ask whether silent war is becoming more dangerous than visible war. Every courier now travels under unseen weight. Every intelligence service studies that operation like scripture. Some see brilliance, others see escalation. Either way, the world that existed before that train no longer exists. The lesson is unsettling. You do not need to eliminate an enemy to destroy his mission. You only need to make him doubt everything he carries. In espionage, uncertainty is often deadlier than bullets. And so the question lingers. Can a nation defend itself through invisible means, without slowly erasing the line between necessary defense and unchecked intrusion? That answer remains hidden, like the truth of that blackout. If this story fascinated you, subscribe and turn on the bell. We are just getting started. Countless covert operations remain buried beneath official silence. Together, we will uncover them one hidden event at a time.